Hey everyone, this is future Drag Race Rejudged here. I'm adding this in last minute as a result of the hate Ginger's gotten for her win. I'm really happy she got a crown. Regardless of whether you agree with it or not, please be respectful in the comments. I am going to be completely blunt here. I went into this season prepared to hate it and with very little intention to ever come back to this channel. Then I watched Bracket 1 and it single-handedly made up for All Stars 9 and Global All Stars. The first 3 episodes of this season is probably one of my favorite stretches of the show I have ever seen. Hello, and welcome to Drag Race Rejudged, where today I will be talking about the highs and lows of All Stars 10 and what I feel production could have improved. I will be honest, it feels really weird going into one of these review videos with a generally positive opinion of the season. To start things off on a high note, this cast was great. With previous seasons, I've usually gone in with 1 to 3 queens I was rooting for beforehand, then gradually liked more and more queens as the season went on. On All Stars 10, I went in rooting for at least half of the cast, and then gradually liked more and more from there. While I was definitely Team Bosco, I don't think there was a single finalist I wouldn't have been happy with taking home the crown. I will also give credit to production that they did a great job dividing up the queens to make the best possible TV. If you remember my All Stars 9 review, my biggest issue was that production had no trust in the queens to make good TV, and manufactured a season to be completely reliant on twists over personalities. On All Stars 10, I kind of feel like they struck a perfect balance. The twist format almost guarantees that good TV is going to happen regardless of how the queens play the game, but production also set the queens up to make the best possible TV with the brackets. Irene and Bosco are both at least somewhat villainous in the best possible way, so putting them together with Aja will probably guarantee a bit of drama, which it did. Mistress and Georges are gremlins in the best possible way, so putting them together with queens like Tina Burner, who will always take the bait, and originally Maddie Morphosis, who can fight right back, would make for a really entertaining group, and it did. Then for Bracket 3, putting Ginger, who was always going to make it through with 3 insanely competitive queens in Daya, Denali, and Acid, was going to guarantee a really close fight for the 2 free slots, and it should have made for great TV if production did not push it a little bit too far. Speaking of production pushing things too far, the main thing I didn't like about the season was production's choices on who to highlight both in the challenges and the edit. In the bracket portion of the season, production occasionally gave out a high placement to queens who did really well in a challenge, like Mistress in the design challenge and Bosco in girl groups. I am really happy they included this aspect of the season, but I do wish they had done a little bit more to highlight more queens throughout the season. Cynthia Lee Fontaine had her strongest challenge performance by a mile across her 3 seasons in the country girl groups challenge, and regardless of whether you'd put her in your top 2, she almost definitely should have been at least high. Additionally, I understand that the challenge was judged in teams, but Acid's design challenge look was great and she should have been at least high alongside Denali. There's obviously a lot more examples of this throughout the season, but the larger point here is that production kind of played favorites in the judging. Obviously this is nothing new, but it's worse than on a regular season since in this case there literally is no justification. I will promise you that no one would get hurt if you gave 2 high placements in one of these episodes. I will also throw in there that the edit was a major place where production did too much. I absolutely love Mistress Isabel Brooks, but this was a bit much. Mistress got more confessionals in a single episode of her group than Lydia, Daya, Georges, and Irene got in the first 2 merge episodes. I mean, no offense to any of the queens who did get a lot of attention, but the entire post-merge felt like it was being dominated by Aja, Ginger, and Mistress, and as great as those 3 are, that is a disservice to the other queens. Next, for more of a mixed bag, the format of the season was a great concept that was executed pretty well, all things considered. I will give production a solid B-, but I think there's a few places where they could have improved. I completely understand that production has a very specific episode order to fill, but I would have loved to see the queens get to compete in a few more challenges. Back in the day, 2015, on Survivor, they would combine 2 challenges into 1 episode for a season, meaning that we got 2 full challenges and 2 full eliminations in 1 episode. One option for Drag Race would just be to jam 2 challenges into 1 episode, but that would just be season 15 on steroids. I think what production could have done was have more 2-in-1 challenges like the girl groups makeover and rapping roast, and then give out 4 separate wins for the episode. The best 2 makeover performances win in lip sync, and then the best 2 girl group performances win in lip sync after them. While I fully understand that I'm asking a bit much out of production, my next point would be pretty easy to implement. I think they may have slightly overdone it with the extra points. I absolutely love Cynthia, she deserved at least 1 win, and I'm very happy she moved on. That said, the fact that a queen with no challenge wins was able to beat a queen with a challenge win and a good social game, based entirely on MVQ points, says to me that there were maybe too many MVQ points in play. I do want to make it clear that I did like the dynamic of MVQ points, and I don't think production should have scrapped it, but having about 44% of the total points being unrelated to challenges is a bit too much. What production could have done is just have points at the beginning or end. Doing it at the beginning means queens will probably be relatively fair and everyone is going in with at least 1 point on the board. Doing it at the end means that queens are going to distribute points entirely based on challenge performances and social dynamics, not the pressure of putting everyone on an even playing field at the beginning. Both of these options are going to keep MVQ points relevant to the narrative of the season, but we also don't have a completely realistic alternate timeline where Aja goes home on episode 3. The final format related thought I have is that they needed more episodes. 3 is the absolute minimum we need for a bracket, but I think 4 is the ideal count. While the editors were able to wrap up the brackets pretty nicely, I think the queens deserve more opportunities to prove themselves. For example, I feel bad that a really talented designer like Irene was able to make it to the finale, but never got to sew a single garment. I think my ideal format would be 4 episode long brackets where the top 2 queens and then 1 wildcard move on. Then we have challenges for final 7, 6, and 5 plus a finale totaling out to 16 episodes like a regular season. For another high note, I think Drag Race really excelled with challenges this season and they worked on several levels. There is absolutely a universe where production did not balance out the challenges here, so I will give them credit for being fair about it. Group 1 was incredibly balanced and got performing comedy and fashion. The queens in Group 2 were much more performer-based and they got a fashion challenge, a performing/comedy challenge, and a full performing challenge. Then Group 3 was more comedy-based and got a fashion-comedy challenge, a performing challenge, and then another comedy challenge. The other aspect of the challenges were that they were much more complex than regular challenges. The rapping roast, the girl group makeover, and so on. I've seen a lot of other people talk about how cool this is conceptually, and I don't want to just parrot them, so I'm going to praise this aspect of the season for entertainment value. It is not fun to watch people bomb, or watch people completely clean house week after week after week. A regular roast would probably go to the comedy queens, but adding the performing aspect gives a chance to Carrie and Georges. A regular design challenge would probably go to the fashion queens, but adding the storytelling aspect gives a chance to Ginger and Cynthia. A makeover would probably go to a fashion queen, but since there's now a performing aspect, queens like Olivia and Aja now have a chance. Another really strong aspect of the season that I'm going to shoehorn in here is that it was great at one point. That sounds incredibly backhanded and shady, but it's true. The first 6 episodes of the season were absolute TV gold that convinced me to bring back my channel. Even if the show kind of fell back down to average for the later half, it is very rare to have a truly great part of a season, and All Stars 10 was able to keep that going for half of its run. With all of that out of the way, it is now time to address what is probably the most avoidable issue of the season, the favoritism. There are many contexts where I completely understand favoritism. Jimbo and Alaska were both saved from the bottom on an episode where they reasonably could have gone home, and both of them staying made for better seasons overall. I hinted at this earlier, but the issue on All Stars 10 is that the favoritism just didn't need to happen. I don't think a single one of the favored queens on this season was ever in any danger of not moving on or going home, meaning production just created chaos for literally nothing. I would say that Group 1 was judged fairly, Group 2 had a few questionable decisions, but most of them fall under the umbrella of personal taste. Even if I disagree with it, a queen who I felt was 3rd best getting the win over someone who is 2nd best isn't that big of a deal. All of the blame here is on production. I don't blame Ginger at all, but Group 3 is where everything kind of collapsed. I love Ginger, I was Team Ginger on All-Star 6, but the other queens in this group were getting robbed blind. The lip-sync win over Denali, getting 2 challenges she had already competed in, and so on. The worst part of it for me though is that Ginger still makes it through even if the season is judged fairly. She was really close with Jaya in this group, so they're probably trading points both weeks. And then we have the improv challenge where she very fully deserved top 2. Ginger would have made it through anyway, but production jammed her through and made everyone involved look bad. Then I would say that the merge episodes were judged more or less fairly outside the finale. Number 1, I'm almost 100% sure the format for the finale was rigged. Ginger got to choose both of her songs and then was miraculously able to dodge all 3 lip-sync assassins before the final lip-sync. Number 2, I think Carrie did slightly outperform Ginger to Disease, but I can't really call that rigged. Carrie has nowhere near strong enough a track record to take out Ginger, just like Morphine and Saphira on season 16. I'm recording this very early in the morning right after watching the finale, so it's still very fresh in my mind, and I don't know if I agree yet, but I've seen a lot of people claiming that the Aja Georges lip sync was rigged. Then number 4 for the final lip sync, this was kind of like a watered down version of Swish Swish. I am absolutely fine with Ginger winning the season over Georges, just like Jinx over Monet, but my question is, why have a lip sync SmackDown if you clearly just want to crown Ginger? There are other formats in the sea that would make a Ginger win more satisfying, use them. Overall, for all of the issues I have with it, this season was solid. It is by far my favorite All-Star since All-Star 6, and if this format is going forward, I think the franchise has a great shot at redeeming itself. I'm gonna reiterate one more time that I am very happy for Ginger, and I mean no offense to her, but long term, I am worried about the precedent that production can blatantly push a queen, refuse to hold a fan vote, and then give them the crown, but at the end of the day, this is reality TV, so what are you gonna do?
Do you want non-Emmy nominated gay shit? Well then you should check out the RuPaul's Drag Race Rejudged YouTube channel and hit subscribe.